Tonight, new backlash over President Biden's visit to Saudi Arabia. The kingdom now disputing his claim that he confronted the crown prince over the murder of a journalist. Plus, the commitment Biden got that may help lower gas prices. The January 6th committee subpoenas the Secret Service after learning some of their text messages from the day of the Capitol attack were deleted. Are mask mandates coming back? One city once again requiring them in schools. And concerning news about this new variant, if you were previously infected, you can get it again. A deadly heat wave kills hundreds across Europe. Wildfires force the evacuation of thousands. And the UK set to hit its hottest temperature ever. One of America's most wanted captured. Will this drug kingpin serve time in the U.S. for killing an American DEA agent? A Montana highway pileup kills 6 during a blinding dust storm. New photos of giant sharks just off the coast of Cape Cod amid a string of attacks across the East Coast. And the biggest losers, why airlines are losing more and more luggage.
One day we were on hold for almost 9 hours.
And what you can do about it.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. President Biden is in the air right now, returning from his visit to the Middle East. The trip was steeped in controversy before he even left D.C., but that controversy has only grown bigger and more complicated. There's new criticism today over the fist bump between him and the Saudi crown prince. And not even a full day after President Biden called a last-minute press conference to make clear that he had told the Saudi leader he believed he was responsible for the death of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi officials are disputing that. The White House is hopeful the meetings there will lead to Arab nations pumping more oil. The president says that will help ease gas prices here. Peter Alexander reports tonight from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
First, the fist bump, now the fallout. President Biden en route home to the U.S. after his most consequential and controversial foreign visit since taking office. Today, meeting with 9 Arab leaders, reiterating how interwoven America's interests remain to successes in the Middle East.
We will not walk away and leave a vacuum to be filled by China, Russia, or Iran.
And again to a room full of autocrats and monarchs emphasizing the value of human rights and the freedom of dissent.
I've gotten plenty of criticism over the years. It's not fun, but the ability to speak openly and exchange ideas freely is what unlocks innovation.
Still, the president is facing fierce bipartisan criticism for treating Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman not as a pariah, but as a partner. Despite saying he rebuked MBS for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi that U.S. intelligence says the Crown Prince ordered. The Saudi foreign minister tonight disputing President Biden's insistence that during their meeting he challenged MBS's claim he was not responsible for Khashoggi's brutal killing.
The president mentioned that this was an issue. He mentioned that he took Saudi Arabia's assurances at face value.
The White House tonight insists the visit here was worth it.
How can you advance human rights if you're not willing to actually get on a plane and go somewhere and talk to foreign leaders about your concerns?
The president returns home touting a Saudi commitment to pump more oil to relieve high gas prices in the U.S. But it remains unclear when Americans will see that relief, with OPEC not set to meet again until next month.
The joint statement at the end of today's meeting with Arab leaders was vague, saying the oil-producing powers here will work to stabilize markets for producers and consumers. But neither the U.S. nor Saudi Arabia has said how much more oil the Saudis will produce. Jose?
Peter Alexander in Jeddah, thank you. Back here in the U.S., the January 6th committee has now subpoenaed the Secret Service looking for missing text messages agents sent the day of the Capitol riot. Those missing texts, key evidence, the committee says, are a crucial piece of the puzzle. Maura Barrett reports.
Overnight, the January 6th committee issued its first public subpoena to an executive branch agency, requesting the U.S. Secret Service turn over its text messages from January 5th and 6th. Ones an internal watchdog says disappeared.
We have a right to obtain all relevant information. We're not going to stop until we get everything.
In a letter to Congress, the Inspector General wrote that the messages were erased after his office requested records of electronic communications. The Secret Service said some were wiped out during a planned cell phone migration, but insisted none of the texts requested by the Inspector General were lost. Those texts could be key in understanding the events surrounding the attack on the Capitol and help corroborate Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now."
A Washington, D.C. police officer backed up this account of the former president's actions that day, according to an official connected with the January 6th committee.
It is possible under some circumstances to recover some texts, but not necessarily all of them.
The Secret Service has until Tuesday to respond. In a statement to NBC News, the agency wrote that it is fully cooperating and will be responding swiftly. Meanwhile, the committee is pushing ahead in its investigation, zeroing in on one potential witness in particular.
Are you going to subpoena Vice President Pence?
We're still discussing whether or not we'll talk to him.
And Maura joins us now from Washington. Maura, what could the committee be looking to hear from the former vice president?
Jose, the committee wants to know whether Mr. Pence was concerned for his own safety before the attack. But the next hearing is set to cover former President Trump's own supreme dereliction of duty on Thursday in prime time. Jose?
Maura Barrett in Washington, thank you. Now to the rapid rise in COVID cases and the latest Omicron variant infecting so many. Rates are so high in some places, one city is bringing back mask mandates, and others may not be far behind. Here's Priscilla Thompson.
In San Diego, the indoor mask mandate for those in summer school returns on Monday, given the district's high transmission rate. In Boston, with cases up nearly 40% in a week, officials are once again recommending masks be worn in crowded indoor settings. Omicron BA.5 now the dominant strain, and doctors say the most contagious, with little hope of immunity.
Why is that? This is a version of the virus that can escape any of the immunity you had from an infection previously, as well as from a vaccine. It poses a risk for a majority of the population because infections in the past don't protect you.
With COVID cases rising in all but 11 states, the U.S. averaged more than 119,000 daily infections over the past week and 379 deaths a day.
We are seeing more reinfections in the last 30 to 60 days.
This latest surge being felt coast to coast. The Staten Island ferry cut service this week due to crew members calling out sick. And LA County is on track to reinstate its mask mandate by the end of the month if cases there don't tick down. While vaccines still protect against severe disease, hospitalization, and death, the impacts of reinfection aren't yet known.
Each time you get reinfected, that's another chance for the virus to cause lots of different problems.
The Biden administration has once again extended the COVID public health emergency declaration, which allows many Americans access to telemedicine, free COVID tests, treatment, and vaccines. Helpful tools in a summer surge Americans had hoped was a thing of the past. Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
A notorious drug lord on the FBI's most wanted list has been captured in Mexico. His case first made headlines after he was convicted for the high-profile murder of a U.S. drug agent. In recent years, Rafael Caro Quintero's violent past has even been turned into a popular Netflix series. Cal Perry reports.
Tonight, Rafael Caro Quintero, the man many call the narco of narcos, is back in military custody. 37 years after the abduction, torture, and murder of DEA agent Enrique Quique Camarena sent shockwaves through the region. The burnt wreckage of a Black Hawk helicopter marks the spot, where authorities say 14 members of the Mexican Navy gave their lives to capture one of Mexico and America's most wanted. The cause of the crash has yet to be determined. It's the stuff of Hollywood scripts, quite literally. Caro Quintero and the murder of Camarena serving as the plotline in the Netflix show Narcos Mexico. Convicted of the murder by a Mexican court in 1989, the infamous drug kingpin served 28 of a 40-year sentence in prison before being released on a legal technicality. The conviction was later upheld, but by then Caro Quintero had already disappeared. In the end, Mexican authorities say a military search dog named Max found Caro Quintero hiding in a bush in the mountains of Sinaloa, Mexico. The capture coming only 3 days after a meeting between Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and U.S. President Joe Biden at the White House. The U.S. Attorney General calling for Quintero's immediate extradition.
We will never forget our comrades in arms.
Former DEA Chief of International Operations Mike Vigil spent 13 years in Mexico.
We will never give up the hunt for people like Caro Quintero.
In a statement, Camarana's wife, Mika, telling NBC News, "I'm in shock. I'm ecstatic. My boys and I are happy and relieved that he was arrested." A Hollywood thriller, many decades in the making. Cal Perry, NBC News.
A deadly heat wave is sweeping through parts of Europe, and it's only getting worse. Hundreds are dead as temperatures hit alarming all-time highs. And now, with out-of-control wildfires, some areas are dealing with double disasters. Megan Fitzgerald reports from London.
Tonight, wildfires are ripping through Europe and parts of northern Africa. In Spain, 17 fires are raging across the country, and thousands are frantically fleeing their homes. This woman saying she's devastated. So far, nearly 400 people have died from the extreme heat as temperatures hit 114 degrees. It's a desperate effort for first responders, working quickly to save lives and homes as neighbors rush to evacuate.
Once you can feel the intensity of the heat and the wind, that's it.
A similar scene in France, where fires are intensifying. 25,000 acres are burning near the famed wine region of Bordeaux. Police going door to door, getting residents out before it's too late. So far, the country's seeing some 12,000 evacuations. The deadly heat wave that's gripping Europe comes at the height of the summer tourist season. In the United Kingdom, a crisis situation in a country where most live without air conditioning. Government officials holding an emergency meeting today.
Hello, it's Friday, the 22nd of July, 2050.
2 years ago, the UK's National Weather Agency put out this forecast to warn about climate change.
Much of England and Wales, highs will be around 40 Celsius.
That eerie prediction is set to come true nearly 3 decades early. The UK is set to hit 40 degrees Celsius, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit, this coming week. Jose?
Megan Fitzgerald in London, thank you. Just ahead, caught on camera, the new shark sightings close to popular beaches after a recent string of attacks. Also, the emergency landing on a Missouri highway. We'll tell you why police arrested the pilot. Swimmers up and down the East Coast are keeping a cautious eye out for sharks today after a recent string of attacks off New York's Long Island. And now, underwater cameras near another popular beach are revealing just how many great whites are getting closer and closer to swimmers. Kathy Park reports.
Tonight, new underwater images show great white sharks lurking off the coast of Cape Cod close to shore. Buoys detected 2 separate sharks. This one was spotted Wednesday morning, and that same day, another seen prowling around a different buoy. Ocean researcher Chris Paparo says shark sightings near land are a sign that the ocean is cleaner and the fish they feed on have returned.
They were overfished for so many years that we just stopped seeing them in those places. That's where their food is.
Lifeguards and swimmers on high alert as sightings of sharks climb all up and down the coast.
This is scary. I don't want to get eaten by a shark.
In just the past 2 weeks, at least 5 shark attacks were reported off New York's Long Island coastline. Lifeguard Zach Gallo is back to work after a shark bit him during a training exercise at Smith Point Beach, leaving behind these bite marks.
I'm very just grateful that it was something with minimal damage.
Close encounters like his are raising new fears for beachgoers.
We only went into like our knees, and I find myself looking around as I'm in there.
Many of these feared predators are closely monitored by researchers. This 12-footer just tagged on Thursday off the coast of Massachusetts. In New York, some beaches have heightened patrols or prohibited swimming altogether.
There's definitely going to be more potential encounters with people and sharks.
But experts say swimmers can still enjoy the surf.
They're not out there to try to eat people. You're probably going to get into an accident on the way to the beach than even seeing a shark once you get there.
Kathy, we know shark attacks are extremely rare, but what should you do if you encounter one in the water?
Well, Jose, experts say the first thing is not to panic. Chances are that shark is trying to pass you by, so you want to keep a close watch on that shark and try to swim back to shore as calmly as possible. Jose?
Kathy Park, thank you so much. Coming up next, deadly dust storm, the massive pileup on a Montana interstate. Plus, why are the airlines losing so many bags? And how can you make sure yours makes it through? We are back with a deadly highway pileup in Montana. 6 people, including 2 children, died yesterday in this massive wreck along an interstate in the southern part of the state. Officials say weather is likely to blame. There was a dust storm in the area at the time with winds of at least 60 miles an hour with 0 visibility blackout conditions. Along another busy interstate, a small plane made an emergency landing. Take a look at this. The aircraft went down near Kansas City, Missouri yesterday after it ran out of gas. Authorities believe the student pilot was intoxicated. He's since been arrested. He was the only person on board and walked away with minor injuries. No one on the ground was hurt. We want to take a moment to alert you to a new hotline for anyone struggling with mental health issues. Starting today, there is a new confidential 3-digit suicide prevention phone number. All you have to do is call 988 to access counselors and support from the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Also in Spanish, llame al 988 para acceder a la línea de prevención del suicidio las 24 horas. Now, back to the travel chaos playing out across the globe. If you're flying anywhere this summer, better bring a carry-on. That's because the rates of lost luggage are skyrocketing. Lindsay Reiser tells us why it's happening and how to prevent your own travel nightmare.
Your bags are packed, you're ready to go. But where those bags go might be another story.
About $4,000 worth of clothes, baby formula for our little daughter.
Maravi Wright says she flew Air France from Oregon to Spain, and after a chaotic carousel of flight changes, her suitcase full of gifts, clothes, and personal items was nowhere to be found.
My mom is 83. She has dementia, and I was hoping to have some time with her and go through some pictures that I printed for her.
While Air France says they regret the current situation and apologize to customers concerned, Maravi says she still hasn't gotten her bag back 23 days later. And her story isn't unique. Look at these airport images from Dublin and Amsterdam to New York and D.C. One Twitter user calling the scene a graveyard of lost bags.
Y'all, this is insane.
And just this week, Delta flew a plane carrying 1,000 stranded bags. No people from London's Heathrow Airport to Detroit.
The reason why we're seeing so many lost bags is the same reason why we're seeing so many delayed flights, is the same reason we're seeing so many long lines at the airport, a labor shortage across the economy and across airlines.
According to the most recent Air Travel Consumer Report, in April, nearly 220,000 bags were lost or damaged in the U.S., a jump of 135% since last year when fewer people were traveling.
What should we do to make sure that our bags are going to be there when we land?
Avoiding checking a bag is the single best thing you can do.
But that's not realistic for many of us. So experts say consider a small GPS tracking device. Take a picture of your valuables inside and know your rights.
Not only are the airlines required to compensate you for lost bags, up to $3,800 for a domestic flight and up to $1,780 for an international flight, but they're also on the hook for any incidentals along the way.
Making sure your summer plans don't grind to a halt. Lindsay Reiser, NBC News, New York.
Still ahead, saving a hero, how a college professor all the way from England gave a New York City firefighter a second chance at life. There's good news tonight about second chances and the firefighter who beat a devastating diagnosis thanks to a stranger's life-saving gift from thousands of miles away. This warm embrace represents a celebration of life for one of New York's bravest. It's the emotional moment last week when, for the very first time, retired firefighter Sal Parisi finally got to meet and thank Stephen Dawkins, the man who is now his hero.
You get a second chance on life, and Steve gave it to me, and it's unbelievable.
Sal, who spent 27 years as a New York City firefighter, was a first responder who served on 9/11. And when he was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia in 2018 and needed a bone marrow transplant,
you're going to come over to England then?
It was Stephen, a college professor living in England, who ended up being a perfect match.
I was all for it because they said I probably wouldn't live without this transplant.
Stephen, why did you join the transplant registry?
I've been giving blood since I was in my 20s, and so when I was about 57, I got the call from the Bone Marrow Registry to say would I donate. So, and of course I said yes straight away.
Sal's transplant in 2019 was a success. And so, after all these years, the FDNY arranged this celebration during Stephen's visit.
You should have given me some height with that phone now.
Finally bringing together both families. So tell me about meeting Sal.
Well, it's been wonderful, actually. So I'm not a very emotional man, actually, but the first time I met Sal, it was very emotional.
We kind of bonded right away, and it's hard to describe, to meet the person that's responsible for you still being here. Life is good.
This week, Sal showed Stephen and his family around Engine 14 in Manhattan, his old firehouse.
This was my locker to store my turnout gear.
The 68-year-old, once again, full of energy, enjoying retirement with his wife Marie, keeping up with his grandkids, and building on the remarkable connection with the man he now considers so much more than just a friend. Are you kind of part of Sal's family now?
It's been really nice. I think we've bonded well, haven't we?
Yes, yes.
Sal calls me an old goat.
The old goat saved my life.
And Sal and his family hope to take a trip overseas to England to see Stephen in his hometown one day soon. That's NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. Kate Snow will be here tomorrow night with a special report on gun violence, focusing on one night in America. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and good night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.